What is going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I am doing my recap of yesterday's preseason game against the Falcons. Obviously, it was our only home game of the preseason against the Atlanta Falcons, and as I'm sure you all know, it went very, very, very well for the Miami Dolphins. In fact, let me just go ahead and start off by saying that, look, man, they really, really impressed me. Now, as you guys know, I keep myself, emotionally uninvested until the start of the actual season, because that's when it becomes live bullets. That's when it becomes, for real. That's when it means something. That's when it counts against your record, etc., etc., etc. Also, one good performance in the preseason doesn't necessarily mean anything. However, this was the preseason, this was the dress rehearsal of the preseason. The starters stayed out for the entire first half. But look, let me just say this is my general, overview, and then I'll get into more detail in a minute, because I do want to give out, I'm not going to do as deep or in-depth a breakdown as I would normally do after, regular season games. I'm going to go through all the stats. I'm going to give you, not an exact play-by-play, but I am going to give you a rundown on how the game played out, at least, notable plays, important plays, key plays to the game, and then, I'll give you just a base overview of how the quarters went, and maybe a little bit about, specific drives. Anyway, if you see, you know how I do it. It is a lengthy and in-depth description and discussion, but, I give you all the stats, relative play-by-plays, mostly just the important stuff, but, I go pretty in-depth. And, I'll even try and, if I can, I'll even try and get some actual play footage, so I can, show you and then also break down to you, the keynote plays and stuff. Anyway, but for now, I'm just going to do a simplified version. I am going to give you, some of the team stats, and then some notable statistics from, some players that showed up and showed out. So anyway, before I get into that, one more final thing I want to say to my overview. Look, they earned, after this game, they impressed me so much that they earned another couple wins on my win total prediction. Now, I'll do you know what? As a matter of fact, it's fine. I'm just going to put it, I was going to say I'll do a final prediction right before the season starts, but this will be my prediction for the season, because after all, the next game that we play, the next preseason game, there's a, high probability we're not even going to see any of the starters. Now, we should still see some of that starting offensive line, and then we're going to get a good look at our depth and, figure out things for the final roster cut downs. But I don't expect that what comes out of this next game is going to be so important that it would change, my outlook on things. Because a lot of the guys that are going to play in that game are not even going to be on the roster, right? So anyway, they definitely, with their performance yesterday, they earned a couple more wins from me on my overall season record. So as you guys know, before the season started, right, before the off-season program began, based off of their performance last year and the level of the quality of team that I believe that they fielded, because I don't believe that they were a 10-win team last year as far as the quality of the team, right? And so based off of that and everything that was happening, obviously the potential mess with Xavier Howard that eventually got sorted out, the Watson rumors, all of the context at the time, I had them with a 6-11 record going into that, right? Throughout training camp, with Tua looking really good, and then after they got Xavier Howard locked back up, because of those two things, Tua finally being healthy and being able to be himself and really show out, and quieting the Deshaun Watson rumors, and eventually, basically squashing them. I mean, they're done at this point. They're done. And it's a good thing to see, right? So because of those two things, and, obviously Xavier Howard got signed because the secondary was getting lit up in camp. But because of those two things alone earned another win from me on their win total. That brought me to 7. Well, after this game, they got another 2 wins for me on my season prediction. So they have now moved up to a 9-8 season as far as I'm concerned. That is what, right now at this point with the data that I have, because look, it is still the preseason, Austin Jackson is still a mess. That right tackle position is still a question. Again, I mean, and look, this offensive line in particular, really impressed me yesterday. But it is fair to note that the Falcons, sat a lot of their starters, which is fair context. They also don't have as an imposing front as, let's say, last week with the Chicago Bears, and some of the teams that we will be playing in the near future to start the regular season, including New England and Buffalo, will have more imposing front sevens than the Falcons do. Right? So those are important contextual pieces of information, and this offensive line still has a lot more to prove to me before I can say I have full confidence. But my confidence level did raise quite considerably yesterday, and that is part of the reason why they did earn 2 games from me. So they're at 9-8 as it stands right now. And the reason why I'm comfortable with making that my final season prediction going into the season is because of the fact that that 10th game, that's going to be earned the first game of the season. So if they can go to Gillette Stadium, and if they can beat that Patriots team, that's not going to be a pushover. I know a lot of Dolphins fans think that we're just going to beat them. I mean, whatever. Like, whatever the excuse is or the reasoning, it's not going to be the case. It's not going to be that easy, I'm telling you. They're going to have a great defense headed by Bill Belichick, okay? And, I mean, I think it does matter, obviously, to some degree, who the quarterback is, but it doesn't matter who the quarterback is from the sense that the Patriots' identity on offense is 100% going to be running the ball. And with the offensive line that they have and the running backs that they have, they will be very effective at doing so. So that's going to be a tough game. So if they beat the Patriots week 1, that's how they'll earn their 10th game from me on the season. So just real quick, I know it's a little off topic and it's going to make this video a little bit longer than normal, but it is relative because they did earn, or it is related, because they did earn a couple extra wins from me. So real quick, at the very start of the preseason, before the preseason began, I had us losing to New England, to Buffalo, to Vegas, win against Indy, loss against Tampa, loss against Jacksonville, loss against the Falcons, loss against Buffalo, win against Houston, loss against Baltimore, loss against the Jets when we go to play the Jets in their stadium, win against Carolina, win against the Giants, win against the Jets when they come to play us, lose against New Orleans, lose against Tennessee, win against New England. Now, over the past, over training camp and the preseason, they've earned 3 wins from me. So I gave them a win against the Jets when we go to play the Jets in their stadium. I changed that game. The Jacksonville game. And looking at this now, though, I had changed the Vegas game, but I actually think I'm going to change the Falcons game instead. As of right now, I think I'm going to change the Falcons game. So case you can't tell, I have a little thing that I have a cork board. You can't see it obviously, but I have a cork board over here with my game predictions. But anyway, so they earned 3. If they can get that win against New England in New England, then they will have a 10-win season, because those wins that I have right now, right, those will all stay the same, and they'll earn that 10th game from me. They can earn their 11th game from me by then beating Buffalo. And they might even earn more than that, because if at that point they go in and they win against New England and win against Buffalo, then maybe I'll feel comfortable about saying, man, and it depends also how they win too. It's not just, I know for like everybody, wins and losses is everything. But look, context is super important, right? So yes, it definitely depends too on how they win, right? Like if they destroyed Buffalo, right? Or as opposed to, I mean, look, a 3-point win is still a win, and it's probably still a great win because Buffalo's a really tough team, right? But everybody knows that if we were to like shut them out and just destroy them by like 20 points, that obviously is a different story, right? And the headlines are going to be that the Dolphins blew out the Bills, right? So there's obviously a difference there. And then obviously same applies though to if they lose. Did they lose just by a little bit, right? Because if they, I know, a lot of people like there's no what is it? Oh, god damn it. There's a saying that people use that's, essentially there's no bright side, there's no emotional victories or something like that. Anyway, right? But if they lose, maybe they did just lose by a couple points and they put up a really good fight. So that context does matter in the case that they lose, or if they were to get blown out, right? So right now, as it stands, they have done enough throughout training camp and the preseason to earn 3 more wins from me on the season going into it. You win those first 2 games, well, if you win the first one, you'll get that 10th game from me. Even if you then go ahead and lose to the Buffalo Bills, I will still feel comfortable enough to call them a 10-win season or call them a 10-win team. But they have to earn it, right? And so to be clear, last season I thought they were, because I said I didn't believe them to be a 10-win team. I thought they were only, maybe a 6 or 7-win team. Like I thought that was their ceiling. So, with everything that they've done over the past few months, they've upped my confidence, and I believe now that they are a 9-win capable team. And I would love to see them push that into double digits going into the season. But they're not going to get that from me until they can prove it to me, right? So that's ultimately the point. I've definitely gained some confidence and some encouragement from some of the things, because especially considering the fact that in this last game, which we will finally start getting to, is that the major areas of concern that I had were lessened, right? So the offensive line, the depth on this roster, those things really impressed me, not to mention the rest of it, right? Like Tua really impressed me, and certain other players really impressed me, and the defense really impressed me, right? But the areas in which I had the biggest concerns got a big time, easing of the anxiety. So anyway, after all of that, let's go ahead and start breezing through this. Let me just go ahead and give you team stats right quick. So the Dolphins had 422 total yards in the game, total yards of offense. Obviously that's across all 3 strings, obviously eventually we got to Reed Sinnett, right? But the starters did play the entire first half, and we did accrue a total of 422 yards. And in any regular season game, that's where we're going to want to be. We're going to want to have that kind of offensive production, especially when we have to play teams like Buffalo and Tennessee and Baltimore, right? And I think some of these teams are actually going to prove to be a bit harder than what we expect. So anyway, but the Falcons on the other side, they had 253 passing yards. We had 286. Most of that was Tua's. He had 183 passing yards. The Falcons only had 66 passing yards. So that's wonderful to see. They did beat us in rushing, and you know that running defense definitely needs to tighten up before the start of the regular season, because that's one of the and as I mentioned, the Patriots are going to be a run-heavy team. We're going to have to be able to stop the run against the Patriots. I have a feeling that it's going to actually be somewhat of a low-scoring game. It's going to be mostly a defensive-heavy game, I have a feeling. And I think it's going to come down to which offense can be a little bit more efficient. By the way, that's one thing that I was really looking forward to in this game, is whether or not this offense was capable of being efficient, and oh boy were they. So it was great to see. Anyway, we had 136 rushing yards, which are still really good, and I'll take that. If we can average 136 yards on the ground per game this season, I'll be perfectly fine with that, right? Honestly, my ideal for a, peak high performing team is at least 300 passing yards and 150 rushing yards, right? Average per game. That is, to me, what a high powered offense is going to produce over the course of a season. But if you can get 250 passing and 100 plus rushing, you're going to be in the upper half of the league as far as an offense goes. And so these stats are wonderful. And look, it's also fair to note, right? Because it's fair to note that the Falcons didn't have all their starters. Well, look, Tua didn't have Will Fuller and Albert Wilson and Devontae Parker, right? So that's absolutely fair context as well. And he showed out, right? There was a Waddle scare. It looked a lot worse than it actually ended up being, thank God, but there was a brief Waddle scare, so let me just put that out there. Obviously, I'm sure you all know that already. But anyway, let's move on. So yards per play, 6.2 for us, fabulous. If we can have, 5 plus is good, but 6.2 is a really good number to be at. Atlanta had 5.1, so not bad. Neither team lost a fumble. Atlanta did throw an interception. We did not throw any. We were 77% on third downs. That is fabulous. Fabulous. Now, are you going to be 77% on third downs every game? No, of course not. And again, it depends, right? Also, let's note, fair context, that, the playbooks are somewhat vanilla still because it's preseason, right? And obviously, like I said, the Falcons rested some starters. It looks like the Falcons are going to have their dress rehearsal next week. But anyway, they sat a bunch of starters. They don't have as imposing a defensive front as like the Chicago Bears, etc. So all of that is relevant context. But going 77% on third downs is fabulous. And especially because, I was on with Reason's live show, and one thing that he talked about and we talked about, during the live, the panel portions, is one thing that is definitely different about this team, this offense, at least the potential of it. Now we have to wait and see if it manifests into a consistent thing throughout the season. But it looks like this team has a potential to be one of those teams where even if we do get behind the sticks, right, and have something like an 8 or a 3rd and 8 to a 3rd and 12, we actually can reasonably have an opportunity to pick that up. In the past, the Dolphins, if we had a 3rd and long, it was almost guaranteed that we were gonna fail and have to end up punting the ball away. Right now, though, with the type of playmakers that we have on this team, the primary thing it hinges on, though, of course, is that offensive line, and if they're going to be able to hold up consistently and well throughout the entire season, right? And then obviously, that will allow Tua to stay healthy, which is one of the big things for him, not getting beat up by a bad offensive line. But, then that'll open up holes for the running game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Dominoes will fall, ripple effects, so on and so forth. But he will be able to be the, type of elite pocket passer, decision maker that he showed last night. He showed wonderful things. We will get more into him in a minute. But anyway, back to the stats into this. 77%, phenomenal. On the other side, though, our defense only let up 22%. Right? So again, are you going to be that low every game on the, for the defense? No. But that's phenomenal. And so, if they, look, man, I mean, look, I don't know what else to say other than they really impressed me. I mean, this was phenomenal. Okay, time of possession. Look, this is about as close to ideal as you're going to get. The only way it gets a little bit more ideal, like I said, is if we bumped up our rushing yards to 150, our passing yards to 300, and, maybe if we got an extra takeaway, right? But other than, so we did cause a fumble. If we would have recovered that fumble, okay, then we would have had 2 takeaways, right? So there you go. But man, this game was about as close to perfectly played. Now again, there is context. It's the preseason, vanilla playbooks, rested starters, blah, blah, blah. Eventually you play second and third teamers, etc., etc. But this game is as close to perfect, and this is what you want to see in the regular season. Time of possession, we had the ball for 36 minutes and 42 seconds to their 23 minutes and 18 seconds. They showed the ability to have long sustained drives. The run game was better tonight. Was it great? No, but it was certainly better. A lot better. And the passing attack was pretty nice as well, right? The whole thing was just amazing, amazing, amazing. They were able to have long sustained drives. They were efficient. It was fabulous to see. Penalties, we only had 2. They had 4. Of course, Austin Jackson got a holding penalty, so it is what it is. But anyway, all right, so now let's get into some important individual stats, and then so this way I can talk a little bit more specifically, because look, man, Tua looked fucking phenomenal out there yesterday, and let's keep it real. So obviously one of the biggest reasons for that is because he is healthy now. He obviously wasn't healthy last season, not even close to it. And, the official reports after it was all said and done is that he was 60%. Obviously, he wasn't ready from a number of aspects. He wasn't ready because of the health aspect to go in, and this is why I said redshirt him. And let's also keep in mind, he did sustain a couple minor injuries last year. One to his throwing hand and one to his foot, right? So, injury concerns. He wasn't fully healthy. That was a major reason why I said we should redshirt him. Let him get adjusted to the NFL. Let him learn the playbook. Let him, gain that chemistry on the side. Learn from a veteran guy like Fitzpatrick, right? Do that. That's obviously not what happened, and he got thrown into the fire, and when he only knew about 40% of the playbook, he had a shitty offensive line in front of him, didn't have confidence in his health, or the chemistry or any of that stuff, right? So obviously that threw things way off. So now he's healthy. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's completely mastered the playbook. He's obviously got a good handle on the portions that they've installed to this point. But that's why I'm not going to say he's a complete master of the playbook yet, because they haven't given the entire playbook to these guys yet. It's only preseason. He's going to learn more and more and more and more of that. The entire team is, as they go throughout the year, as they install more, as they do more and more specific things, right? So, but what he has been given, he's obviously executed and gained a mastery of on a high level. Now look, the fact of the matter is that those are some of the things that we know that he has from his time at Alabama and the track record. We know he's a super smart kid and a hard worker. We know he's got high football IQ. We know he's great in the pocket and has elusiveness and knows how and when to step up, has great pocket presence. He doesn't have the biggest arm, and that does show at times. And his athleticism is not as great as like a Lamar Jackson or even a Josh Allen, but he's got above average athleticism, right? But he's accurate, and he throws with anticipation. He knows how to throw receivers open, right? Some people do want to compare him to Brady in the sense of his efficiency and, stuff like that. And then, of course, there's, the Drew Brees and Russell Wilson comparisons, and they're all fine comparisons, but, Tua's Tua, and he does a lot of things that those guys do. But as long as he has a solid offensive line in front of him, this dude will dissect, because he's also really good at reading defenses and understanding defensive sets and stuff like that, right? So he's got a really high football IQ, and this is above the head. He's super, right? He's great, right? That's one of those things that is considered elite, right? He doesn't necessarily have elite arm strength or athleticism, but he's got, the elite pocket presence and the mental side, right? So look, man, if things work out well, this could be a really good season. Again, they still need to prove some things to me, but Tua, and I've said this for quite some time, right? And even when it was draft time, I never said that I didn't like Tua's skill set or abilities or, whatever, or his potential. My concern for him was his injury situation and the situation he was coming into, right? Especially because I didn't have trust in that offensive line, and still they have a lot to prove to me, right? But it was never, and the way I say it, I've been saying it recently, is it's not the player, it's not the person, it's the potion, it's the whole mix. So I'm still, not 100% there yet with the mixture, but again, they did gain a few games worth of respect from me over the course of this preseason, and it does look like they can be at least a 9-win team this season, potential for more, but they are going to have to earn that from me. So anyway, Tua, though, was 16 for 23, 183 yards, 1 touchdown. Brissett was a perfect 8 for 8 for 99 yards and a touchdown, and Reed Sinnett was a perfect 2 of 2, 7 yards, all of 7 yards, and a touchdown. So each of our quarterbacks got, and that's what I'm saying. That was another thing, right? Is the depth proved it to me too, that they can come out and hold their own and perform efficiently, etc., etc. All right. Malcolm Brown was our rushing leader with 10 attempts, 43 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 4.3 average. Garrett Dokes had 7 rushes for 30 yards and a 4.3. Myles Gaskin, 6 rushes, 27 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 4.5. Jordan Scarlett, 5 rushes, 22 yards, and a 4.4. And look, man, that's the thing. Again, it hinges obviously on the offensive line, but the running backs that we have are more than serviceable, bro. Gaskin's out there looking great. Ahmed's looking great. And Malcolm Brown and Garrett Dokes could be, those good thumper, short yardage compliments. The running back committee, again, and this is a thing I've said consistently. I don't hate it, right? They've obviously shown a clear, lack of urgency or concern or interest in, getting a bell cow back. But I've always said that I don't necessarily care about that. Is it cool to have that guy, like a Derrick Henry or whatever? Yeah, sure. Great. Having Derrick Henry would be fabulous. But I've never hated, and I've actually, to some degree, certainly liked the committee thing, especially because then it doesn't put, so much wear and tear and importance on just one player. But these guys are all more than serviceable, and they have some flashes, and they actually, because look, one of the potential, and I've said this team has a lot of boom, it's got a lot of bust, but one of the boom parts is that with the talent on this team and the across it, right, the tight ends, the wide receivers, they obviously, a lot of these guys got to stay healthy. But the running backs, as long as that offensive line is good, we can score from about any level, right? We can throw a bubble screen or something that could go the distance. It could be a running play that goes the distance. It could be but of course, so much hinges on that offensive line. And that's the reason why I'm still not quite ready to give them, 10 wins. And they're going to have to earn it once we actually get to the regular season. But they impressed me yesterday. Matt Collins led the way for us, who had a really good showing yesterday as well. He was really putting on a show there and actually saved a couple drives, with some really good catches. He was 4 out of 5 for 49 yards. Myles Gaskin was 4 of 4 for 44 yards and a touchdown. Mike Gesicki, 2 of 2 for 43. Kirk Merritt, who also really showed out and showed everything that you want from a receiver. He showed the ability to high point the ball, to be physical, to get separation. He showed his speed and athleticism. I mean, Kirk Merritt has really, really been showing out. And I got to say, it is going to be tough when it comes down to roster trim downs for this wide receiver room. And there's been a hot debate about, how many are we going to keep? I think we're going to keep 7, and they're going to try to put 2 to 3 on the practice squad. The obvious concern and risk there is when you cut these guys, they have to then pass waivers. So, and teams are likely going to scoop them up. So it is going to be tough to do, and they're probably unfortunate. They're either, they might end up having to keep 8, and they're probably going to lose, a couple guys that they might not want to lose. But Kirk Merritt, I definitely think, is at the top. I mean, let's do a quick count off. So I think, barring something, big like a trade or whatever, we're going to have Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Preston Williams, Albert Wilson. Let's see. That's 4. That's only 4. So you got Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Albert Wilson, Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle. And then I think I would say Kirk Merritt. And I feel like they're going to keep Lynn Bowden too. Jakeem Grant. I mean, I like Jakeem Grant. I know a lot of Dolphins fans don't like him. And he definitely, drops too many passes. That is for sure. But I think people are underestimating the team's value in him when it comes to the return game. Although, they do look at the same time, and it's part of the reason why I say don't put Waddle on, returns, is they got a bunch of guys who can do it. So, but I think that's probably somehow about where it's going to shake out. I would definitely keep Kirk Merritt though. I mean, he has been absolutely balling. Let's see. Robert Foster had a touchdown, 2 for 2, 16 yards and a touchdown. Let's see. Cre'Von LeBlanc was the one that caused that fumble. Unfortunately, the Falcons did recover it, but he got that. Calvin Munson had our interception of the game. Obviously, that was later on in the second half, against backups and backups of backups. But it was a beautiful, beautiful interception. He did manage to return it for 21 yards, had also gotten a pass defense. Eric Rowe had a pass defense. Nick Needham had a pass defense. But yeah, it was just beautiful. And look, he helped to make a name for himself, right? And that's the thing. And we definitely could use some depth in that, we need good depth in that linebacker unit just in case some of those guys either get tired and need to come out or, get hurt, God forbid, knock on wood, whatever, right? So, and there was another linebacker that really showed the fuck out, and that was Sam Aguavian, or Aguavian. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I would love to hear it from him so I know officially. Anyway, but he had 7 solo tackles, 4 assisted, 4 sacks, and 4 tackles for loss. And also obviously caused a safety during the game. I mean, this dude balled out. And that's part of what I'm saying. Some of the depth really showed the fuck out and gave me some confidence in some of this depth, right? Because that was one of my top concerns. So, and especially in one of the units where I think we really needed some of that depth to show through at the linebacking unit. So, that was really good to see. And overall, we had 4 sacks. All of them came from Sam McGuavin, and 5 tackles for loss. And like I said, man, it was just an all around. I mean, that's really about, you know, it. That's gonna do it. Man, like I said, so to wrap up, I don't get emotionally invested until the actual season starts, because again, that's live bullets. That's when it counts. Having said that, I thought that last season they overperformed and overachieved. I do not think they fielded a 10-win quality team, and I thought they were only about a 6-7 win team at their ceiling. But they did overachieve for a number of reasons, as I've mentioned many, many times throughout the past couple years now, or the, you know, last season and up to this point. Anyway, so, but having said that, everything that has transpired over the course of the offseason and up till now in the preseason has earned me confidence enough to be able to tack on a few more wins. So now I have upped them to a 9-8 team, and I'm feeling a lot better. Now, again, we have to keep things real. We have to keep things in perspective. They still have a lot to prove, okay? And, you know, I know things feel different and everything, and Dolphins fans are so ready to get up in their emotions and be super excited, and I get it. But we've seen them fail time and time again and find a way to disappoint us. Now, there are still ways in which that can happen. We have to be careful, and we have to hope that, you know, we don't have any major injuries or COVID. By the way, they did put another linebacker on the COVID list, Kylan Johnson. So, look, and that still is a pretty major concern at this point in the season, right? Injuries, COVID. We've had way too much of that still. The offensive line, even though, you know, Dieter's impressed me, and yesterday they really impressed me, we have to wait and see how that translates into the regular season, right? We still, I mean, as encouraging as yesterday is, we have to keep ourselves, you know, centered. We have to keep things in perspective, and you just got to temper the emotions. I know you want to get in there, but let them go out and prove it first, right? And that way, just in case, God forbid, if things don't go well, or if we sustain injuries and, you know, the offensive line, you know, whatever, blah, 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 God forbid, knock on wood, whatever, if those things happen, then you won't be heartbroken, right? So just keep things, you know, keep things in perspective, keep a balance to things. That's what I try and get people to do, right? You know, and prepare them for the potential, you know, heartaches, right? So that way they don't have a broken heart at the end, because it sucks. Anyway, so look, there is a lot of excitement. There is a lot of possibility, but we have to go out and let them prove it. So that's why, for me, they have earned their way up to a 9-8 team, a 9-8 season. Get that win at New England, you'll have earned that 10th game for me. That will be the 10th game. You get that W, that will be the 10th game. Get the W against Buffalo, that's your 11th game. And then we'll see how the rest of the season plays out from there. But yeah, man, they definitely still have to earn it, though. Going into the beginning of this season, I need to see more from them, and I need to see it in live bullets when it actually matters, before I can have that full confidence to say that they're going to be a 10+ win team, and I think that they can actually make it to the playoffs. So, all right, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts, share my channel and videos with your friends and family, leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.